How goes it, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the Eminem Show Expanded Edition, which marks the 20th anniversary of the Eminem Show. Now, there's basically 10 new songs on here. So the original Eminem Show had 20 songs, but this adds basically actually 18 more songs, but 10 of them are kind of songs, and then 8 of them are instrumentals. I'm not going to review the instrumentals in this review, and I'm not going to re-review the Eminem Show, the album from 2002, but I am going to review the 10 new songs on here. So that's kind of the concept about it. And basically, as far as how this sort of stuff kind of went, was Eminem put like 4 new songs on here, which were Stimulate, The Conspiracy Freestyle, Bump Heads, and Jimmy, Brian, and Mike. And the concept about it was just because Eminem has started kind of start uncorking like the vault from some of his unreleased songs and stuff. So particularly Jimmy, Brian, and Mike is actually from the Marshall Mathers LP. That was a leftover from the Marshall Mathers LP, and it's really interesting because I do kind of wish that song would have been on there. But because there's no singles on this project, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the new songs first, and then I'll just go ahead. So actually, as far as that kind of goes, I'll just go ahead and recommend the 7 songs out of the 10 new ones that I recommend. So they would be Stimulate, Bump Heads, Freestyle 1, Freestyle 2, The Way I Am Live, The Real Slim Shady Live, and Jimmy, Brian, and Mike. So the only 3 songs that I don't recommend. The only 3 songs I don't recommend are The Conspiracy Freestyle, Brain Damage Live, and Just Don't Give a Fuck Live. So to talk about some of these, like Jimmy, Brian, and Mike, like I was saying, is a leftover from the Marshall Mathers LP. And I think that this really would have enhanced the album because it would have kind of brought it a little bit more down to earth. Kind of similar to the new song that's been kind of showing up on the Marshall Mathers LP, The Kids. I kind of feel like this one's just a little bit more frivolous and kind of has like a more frenetic kind of teenage house party type feel towards it, which is kind of unexpected of Eminem to kind of see him quite as hapless and kind of more just kind of seeing Eminem more frivolous and that type of stuff. It's just interesting to kind of get that because you think of songs like The Way I Am and Stan and Kill You and Kim and some of those type songs, just kind of getting one of these type songs. I think it would have added an extra kind of more lighthearted spice to the album, despite the fact that it was kind of a serious topic about teenagers partying and having horrid things happen and that type of stuff from drug use. But I did like the concept of it. Eminem's lyrics were fantastic. I mean, really, the first verse Eminem redid circa either this recent times 2022, something like that. It's a recent Eminem verse. Apparently, it was a completed song or something like that, but Eminem just redid the chorus and the first verse as far as that kind of went. And I'm not sure as to why that kind of happened. I would have liked maybe both songs to have been on here. I know Eminem is kind of starting to get impartial about people preferring his older music to like the new stuff. But I kind of look after it. I would have liked to have seen the song in the original format just as like an extra kind of leftover gem for the Marshall Mathers LP. I feel like I do like Eminem's cadence on his new verse that he spits on the first verse, but I just feel like there was something special about the way he did it back in the year 2000 and stuff, just because had a little bit more crazier and manic type feel. Eminem just sounds too comfortable and kind of comfortable on like the verse on Jimmy, Brian, and Mike, and I kind of feel like it just doesn't have like the manic kind of drug addled edge that it did back in the year 2000. When you listen to the third verse in the last minute and a half of like Jimmy, Brian, and Mike, it just kind of conveys that he was just a little bit more crazy, a little bit more uncaged, and a little bit more kind of hot off the collar, to where I think that that version of the song probably would have been the more deliverance. I just think, comparing like the first half of the song where Eminem kind of raps that first verse, it kind of just feels more like a caricature of what happens to teenagers who do too much drugs. But it felt like Eminem was more involved in that sort of lifestyle back in the year 2000 when he did it. I just think the concept, it just loses some of like the urgency and kind of the liveliness of the song. I think it's a very frivolous song, but it just had a better impact in terms of the way it was in the year 2000. Now, I don't think it's a bad song. I think it's still a great song, and it really kind of gives off like a manic house party type feel, but it just doesn't have the same context as far as like the way it did 20 something years ago. But I also like Bump Heads. I discovered the fact that this was actually on a Shady Records mixtape, so I'm going to have to look into some of that stuff just to see if Shady Records actually did drop some mixtapes. But lo and behold, this is an active song by Eminem where he was on a song with G Unit. I remember talking how many times about wondering if Eminem ever did any songs with Tony Ayo and Lloyd Banks and 50 Cent as a group. And even though 50 Cent doesn't drop a verse on this song, Eminem still basically kind of technically was on a song with G Unit. And it's outstanding. I mean, Eminem completely eviscerates this song. He's back on his central prime type mannerisms like he was in 2002 and 2003. And it's just an overall excellent song as far as trying to say that. This is the kind of stuff that showcased that Eminem had the perfect Midas touch back 20 years ago, back 2002, 2003, 2001, and such. And he just was like a perfect foil to like G Unit and that type of stuff. They had great chemistry. And even though there's not a bunch of songs of Eminem with G Unit, Tony Ayo, and Lloyd Banks, I feel like they mesh pretty well also, even if 50 Cent didn't spit a verse. I still feel like Eminem fits right in with G Unit and those type songs. That definitely works as far as that goes. It's a diss song to Ja Rule, and it's an adequate diss to Ja Rule. I definitely think that this is a nice one. And then Stimulate. Now, I like the fact that this song is on the expanded edition, but the actual fact of the matter is if you track down the 8 Mile album, you can find Stimulate on a bonus disc. It's just the fact that if you buy this album used, it's not every single person that's going to have the bonus disc on there. If you didn't know, the 8 Mile soundtrack is actually 2 discs. So there's the original disc that has like the songs like Lose Yourself and 8 Mile Road on there, but the second bonus disc has like an extra song from Eminem. Like it has Stimulate on there. It has an extra song from 50 Cent where 50 Cent freestyles to Till I Collapse. It just has some good stuff on there. I definitely recommend if you do have the option of buying the 8 Mile soundtrack new, I would get it new just to kind of have a for sure fact that you'll get the second disc because that's where Stimulate originally stemmed from. But apparently the song was a leftover from like the Eminem Show, and it just didn't make it because of time constraints. But it's a pretty poignant song. I mean, it just has a real kind of mellow, summery type feel. Used to listen to this song a lot back in the day. A fantastic chorus. Eminem tears it apart. A fantastic chorus on Stimulate, and Eminem really tears the song apart. And it's just so basic. I mean, that's the whole concept about it. It's just a real kind of breezy, kind of mellow, summery type song. I definitely think the Eminem Show could have used this song just because, for the most part, the Eminem Show felt very kind of self-important, maybe not self-important, but just kind of, it felt more kind of busybody in a sense. There just weren't a lot of this is really like the most relaxed song I've heard from Eminem in a long, like Stimulate is definitely probably one of the more relaxed songs from Eminem. I just feel like the tempo is just so tepid and mellow and that type stuff. It just really has such a relaxed vibe about it. It's just kind of odd seeing Eminem that comfortable back on like the Eminem Show, because most of the rest of the album songs like Square Dance and Business and Till I Collapse and some of those type moments just really didn't have that sort of relaxation, or even songs like Sing for the Moment and Cleaning Out My Closet that were just a lot more like drastic in that type of sense. So it's definitely good to kind of get Stimulate, just kind of a breezy kind of June, July, August type song, something like that. Just a mellow kind of summer song. It's real relaxing from Eminem. And like I said, you can find this on the 8 Mile soundtrack if you look hard enough, and that's kind of the concept. But it is an outstanding song. It's a great one. Definitely should have been on the Eminem Show. And then to talk about some of the rest of these, like I feel like Freestyle 1 and 2, it's brilliant that both of these are from 1999, just because Eminem back in his just got done with the Rap Olympics days, and kind of a little bit after the Slim Shady EP and kind of right around the Slim Shady LP times. This is when he eviscerated these lyrics and just did it left and right. I mean, even freestyles that don't have any beat, don't have any like topic context, and don't have like any and are kind of hard to hear, these are still gems from Eminem, just seeing what he would do with them. I mean, he really retained like his Rap Olympics and kind of battle rapper type style in his freestyles, and it's just kind of an Eminem that needs to happen. I think Eminem should spit more freestyles like this to see how he would compare to like he was back in 1999. It's just kind of the concept. Both of these are good. And then like the other 2 songs I liked on here were The Way I Am and Real Slim Shady. Both of these, like The Way I Am really felt extra haunting. It kind of felt like this could kind of be played kind of at a nightclub, something like that, I would definitely kind of say I like the concept of kind of hearing it, just because the way I am just had like that's kind of a creepy song as is. It just kind of is a little bit more brooding and kind of more moody and bloodletting and that type of stuff. I feel like just the emphasis behind it, it kind of gives it like a very powerful and kind of like doomsday and kind of like just overcast kind of feel about it that just makes it extra kind of brooding, just having it in front of a crowd of how many people that were there at that Japan festival. So this kind of happens. This really kind of becomes like a citation more so than just like the typical kind of bloodletting song that the original Way I Am was. I like it kind of it kind of makes it a little bit more of a nightclub type song. And it's the same thing with Real Slim Shady. I feel like this could probably go from just like a standard nightclub to more of like a casino and a larger venue, where I would probably play the original Real Slim Shady at just like a typical vanilla nightclub, something like that, especially 20 something years later. But now I kind of feel like it just has like a larger venue and a little bit more engaging and kind of semblant kind of feel towards it as far as that kind of went. So I think that that concept kind of getting that, it breathes new life into the Real Slim Shady song if you've heard it thousands of times or more. It just kind of happens to be the concept of just getting that with a little bit extra life to kind of hear it and just in a new context and get like a bigger night venue feel towards it. And having Proof kind of be his hype man on the song is a nice touch also on those songs. So yeah, I think that basically takes care of like the 7 songs that I enjoyed. So I'm gonna score this album, me liking 7 songs out of 10 of the new ones. I'm gonna go ahead and give this album a 7.25 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty large factor of a situation, just for the fact that there's only really 4 new songs, and the rest, the other 6 songs, are just live songs and freestyles and that type of stuff. So really, the new stuff has, like, for the most part, a pretty well factor meant, but I think Bump Heads is probably the best of the new additional material, just because this was such a ferocious and just kind of real kind of burning type song that just really showcased the Eminem and G Unit as a potent combination. And then I feel like Jimmy, Brian, and Mike, while I would have liked the original version of the song, I do feel like this is a nice outtake from the Marshall Mathers LP that showcases that the Marshall Mathers LP could have been even more potent had some of these songs that he had worked on actually shown up. So this kind of showcases that, and Stimulate, like I said, is a gem. So that's just kind of the concept about it. 7.25. I mean, to talk about some of the things I didn't enjoy, like I kind of felt like the 2 songs he performed live from the Slim Shady LP just didn't work that well. I didn't really like. I mean, I feel like Brain Damage is just not that much of a performing highlight. I mean, it's a good lyrical song, but it's not really a night venue or a very social song. So I just feel like that's kind of a song you'd listen to in like a high school locker room or something like that. It just kind of comes off as a little bit more homely and that type of stuff, or just more not blue collar, but just kind of homely and more classroom type song. It just didn't seem like a good highlight from the Slim Shady LP to showcase on here. I would have picked Role Model or Still Don't Give a Fuck, or a better rendition of Just Don't Give a Fuck, or Guilty Conscience, one of those. I mean, Eminem did have some night venue songs on the Slim Shady LP, but Brain Damage just wasn't the one. And then Just Don't Give a Fuck, I like this song, and this is a definite highlight from the Slim Shady LP, but Eminem was just really hard to hear on this song. It was difficult to kind of hear him. You could barely hear him on here, and the live performance on top of that just made it a kind of muddled song, and just the sound quality on this song was pretty poor. I just feel like whoever recorded that from like the 1999, I mean, I know it was 20 something years ago, but the soundscape from the songs from the Slim Shady LP performances were just not that good. The freestyles were manageable, but even those were kind of somewhat hard to hear. But just the 1999 performances just did not quite have the sound quality that the rest of the album did. But I still like the freestyles. So, and then I didn't like the Conspiracy freestyle just because I couldn't get into the beat at all. I mean, I liked the fact that he was freestyling, and it did seem like it was pretty good, but it just was not something I would have wanted to hear a rap freestyle over, so I couldn't really vibe with that one. But so 7.25 out of 10. And in terms of the social score, I would go ahead and give it like a 6 social, because I feel like there are some of these, like so I would give this album a 6 social score, just because I feel like some of the stuff on here, it does have some new life in the the Marshall Mathers LP live performances, but I kind of feel like somehow it just didn't quite have the energy that it needed to for like a full blown social festivity. Like there is some good new treats in here, like Bumpheads and Jimmy, Brian, and Mike, but it's like typical complaints of like an Eminem project. It's just not always the most night venue and nightlife oriented. I kind of feel like it does have some stuff in here. Bumpheads works, but in terms of like a standard another song like Real Slim Shady or something like that. I mean, I like the fact that Way I Am and Real Slim Shady breathe some new life into those songs, but Just Don't Give a Fuck and Brain Damage are kind of tough to hear, and the freestyles are kind of just quiet with no beat, so those are not really lively as much as just a wow factor about them. So it's kind of the concepts. There's not an overabundance of like social stepping out weekend type feels. I like the concept, and this album does have quality, but it's not quite as much of like a thorough all weekend kind of highlight as much, but it is good. I mean, there is some quality on here, so don't let my social score detract from having you pick this up. But so that about takes care of it. Like the next one of these probably is going to be the Encore 20th anniversary, which I'm looking forward to seeing what Eminem kind of does with that. 2024 is just next year, so we'll see what kind of happens with that. But just kind of underneath the context that there is definitely some gems on here, and it's just surprising that some of Eminem's old highlights kick as much ass continuously as they do.